عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Respected viewers, this week we talk about the life of Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala. His name was Muhammad bin Idris and he was born in the year 150 AH, that is 150 years after the Hijrah. This was the same year in which the great illustrious Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah had passed away. Imam Shafi rahimahullah had lost his father at a very young age, and that is when his mother had taken it upon herself to see to his Islamic education, ensuring that Imam Shafi rahimahullah, this young boy, memorizes the Quran by the age of 7. And more than that, he also memorizes the Muwatta of Imam Malik rahimahullah, one of the famous compilations of Imam Malik rahimahullah. Now, Imam Malik rahimahullah was also one of the famous four Imams, and whose life we will discuss in our coming sessions. But for now, we understand that Imam Malik rahimahullah was already around at that time when Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah was still growing up. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, after being born in Gaza, his mother then came away to Makkatul Mukarramah, so he was based in Makkatul Mukarramah, and Imam Malik rahimahullah was based in Madinatul Munawwara. Around the age of 13, his mother then begins to look for ways in which he can benefit from the scholars, and she comes up with this idea that she would love her son to learn under the tutorship of Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala. So how to get him there? She writes to the governor of Makkatul Mukarramah. According to some reports, the governor of Makkatul Mukarramah was her cousin. She writes to her cousin, the governor of Makkatul Mukarramah, that can you write to the governor of Medina to assist us in getting this young boy, Muhammad bin Idris, the opportunity to study under Imam Malik rahimahullah. Long story short, he ends up in Madinatul Munawwara with a letter from the governor of Mecca. In Madinatul Munawwara, he meets the governor of Medina, and he tells the governor of Medina that here is a letter from the governor of Mecca, and can you help me study under Imam Malik rahimahullah? The governor of Medina begins to laugh and he says, if the governor of Mecca had asked me for anything else, definitely I would be able to do it. But asking me to go and intercede for you by Imam Malik rahimahullah, it's something that's very difficult. Nonetheless, let's give it a try. They end up by the house of Imam Malik rahimahullah, and the servant answers the door, and she says to them that if you came here to greet and to make salam, you can do that at a later stage or at a different time. If you have come here to ask an Islamic ruling, you can meet the Imam later. If you came here to learn fiqh, Islamic jurisprudence from Imam Malik rahimahullah, then you can attend his fiqh circles. And anyways, the governor of Madinatul Munawwara hands her the letter. She reads the letter coming from the governor of Mecca. She goes to Imam Malik. She says, look, there's a letter from the governor of Mecca. And he tells her, tell them I am coming. She places a chair for him. Imam Malik rahimahullah comes out and he sits on this chair and he says, what does the governor of Mecca want from me? And then he reads the letter and he says that since when do we need connections in order to benefit and gain Islamic knowledge? Nonetheless, he then takes this young boy, Muhammad bin Idris al-Shafi'i, under his wing, and he gets to know that this young boy had memorized his entire compilation. He tests him, and this young boy is able to recite from memory everything that was compiled by Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala. And like that, he spends approximately 13 years under the tutorship of Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala. And after the demise of Imam Malik rahimahullah, Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala was then appointed as the governor of Najran. He acted very justly amongst the people, and unfortunately this was to the displeasure of some who slandered him in the presence of the then Khalifa Harun al-Rashid. So Harun al-Rashid then summons him, and Imam Shafi rahimahullah, due to his eloquence, is able to explain himself and how he is in the right, and the Khalifa then lets him go, releases him, and not only that, but also gives him a gift of approximately 50,000 dinars, 50,000 gold coins. Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah, before leaving the palace, distributes these 50,000 gold coins to the servants of the Khalifa Harun al-Rashid and leaves the palace taking nothing from the Khalifa. He then remained in Baghdad and he met the famous student of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, Imam Muhammad bin Hassan al-Shaybani rahimahullah ta'ala. He spends some time with him, he benefits from him. Imam al-Shafi rahimahullah then returns to Mecca, and there were a few journeys like this where he goes back to Baghdad, he spends some time there, he comes back to Mecca, and then he goes for a third time to Baghdad, and then eventually he ends up in Egypt until his demise, which was in the year 204 after Hijrah, 204 AH. So he lived for approximately 54 years of age. Just to mention some incidents of Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, and since it's the month of Ramadan, Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah would complete the Quran at least 60 times during the month of Ramadan. Respected friends, that is 60 khatams during the month of Ramadan. And if you want to do the math, it's if it's a 30-day if it's a 30-day period of fasting, then each day he would make two khatams. He would recite the entire Quran twice. So this was Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala. He was also uh, a master at archery. During his young days, his mother had sent him to one of the tribes known as the Hudayl tribe. And from them, he learned the skill of archery. And he himself would say that if you give me some targets to shoot, I would hit 9 out of 10. And according to some narrations, he would say that I'm a 10 out of 10 archer. So Imam Shafi rahimahullah was very good in archery, and he also learned from the Hudayl tribe their language. They were the most eloquent when we talk about pure Arabic. The pure Arabic, in its purest of form, was found with the Hudayl, the Lugha of Hudayl, the language of the Hudayl tribe, and he learned from them. And Imam Shafi rahimahullah would say that I have memorized and I know the meaning of every word of the Quran except two words, and one of which he had forgotten, the other being the word dasaha, which later on he found out to come from the Sudanese language, which means to corrupt something. Also, with regard to Imam Shafi rahimahullah, that when he was in Makkatul Mukarramah, then during the seasons of Hajj, many prominent figures and scholars would come and they would meet him and they would learn from him. And one person in particular that learned from Imam Shafi rahimahullah is the famous Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala, whose life we are also going to discuss during the series towards the end. But Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah had also benefited from Imam Shafi rahimahullah ta'ala. So Imam Shafi rahimahullah was his ustad. So one day there is an incident mentioned that one day Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi had invited Imam Shafi over to his house, and Imam Shafi rahimahullah accepts this invitation. So the food is prepared by the wife of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah. Imam Shafi rahimahullah eats to his fill, and then he goes into the guest room and he comes out at Fajr time and he begins praying the Salatul Fajr with Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala. To this, the wife of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah was surprised and taken aback, and she questions her husband, saying that, is this your Ustad, Imam Shafi, the great Shafi, that you praise him so much and you learn from him? But I have some objections with regard to him. Number one, he came to our house and he ate so much, he ate to his full. Number two, he just went to sleep, he went into the guest room, he didn't even perform the Tahajjud prayer, the night prayer, and let alone that, he just joined us for the Fajr Salah, he didn't even make wudu. So this troubled Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahimahullah. So he goes to Imam Shafi rahimahullah, and look at this. When he heard about his ustad, he didn't, let the assumptions take the better of him. He went to the person directly, he went to his ustad directly, and he clarified with his ustad. And this is a great lesson for us. Many times we hear things from people and we don't go to the person directly to clarify, but we just go with the baseless assumptions. Anyways, Imam Ahmad goes to Imam Shafi and he says, look, there's some things that are bothering me. Number one, you ate so much when you came, and that's not behoving of a scholar to behave in such a manner. Number two, you just slept the entire night, and number three, you just joined us for the Fajr Salah without even performing wudu. Imam Shafi rahimullah then explains him that look, I wouldn't normally eat to my full like that, but I could sense your food being of halal tayyib nature, and its effects were great upon me. And that is why I couldn't just eat a little, but I wanted to benefit from such pure food, and that is why I ate more than usual. Had it been a stingy person or any other person, I would have not eaten so much, but because of the blessings found in this particular food that was prepared in your home, that is why I had consumed to my full. And then when I went into the guest room, I did not perform the night prayer because as I laid down, wanting to get a little bit of rest, I began thinking about a verse of the Quran. And just thinking about it, I was able to deduct at least 72 rulings that would benefit the Muslim Ummah. And this took me the entire night. Hence, I did not find time to perform the night prayer. Hence, when I joined you people for the Fajr Salah, I just came without performing wudu because I had my wudu from Isha Salah. I never slept the entire night. I performed my Fajr Salah with you with the same wudu. Subhanallah. So this is one great incident of Imam Al-Shafi'i rahimahullahu ta'ala. Also with regard to Imam Al-Shafi'i rahimahullahu ta'ala, he was a great poet. And amongst his poetry, if I can just read for you one or two of of his short poetry, the first being with regard to Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, whose life we had discussed last week. He says with regard to him, لقد زان البلاد ومن عليها إمام المسلمين أبو حنيفة بأحكام وآثار وفقه كآيات الزبور على الصحيفة فما بالمشرقين له نظير ولا بالمغربين ولا بكوفة فرحمة ربنا أبدا عليه مدى الأيام ما قرأت صحيفة. He says that the Imam of the Muslims, Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, has beautified countries and the lives of the inhabitants by means of rulings, prophetic narrations, and his glorious jurisprudence that are like the verses of the Psalms. Neither in the east nor the west, nor in Kufa, is there someone similar to him. May the mercy of our Lord be on him as long as his teachings prevail. And then if I read to you a second poem compiled by Imam Shafi rahimahullah, and this is something I thought I bring to the fore because in today's times many people are suffering with depression, and we just don't find happiness in the world around us anymore. And he says that, and I'll just read for you the English, that eyes are awake, eyes are sleeping whilst contemplating over such things that might or might not take place. Everything is predestined. Discard your worries. To involve yourself in worries is insanity. Verily, the same Lord that was sufficient for you yesterday will suffice for you in the future. So this is from the poetry of Imam Al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, or at least the translation of that. And lastly, I would like to say that Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal rahmatullah alayhi would say with regard to this great Imam Muhammad bin Idris al-Shafi'i rahimahullah, that the scholars of hadith are the pharmacists, and the scholars of fiqh, the scholars of Islamic jurisprudence, are like doctors. Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah was both. He was a scholar and master of hadith, and he was a scholar and master of Islamic jurisprudence. He was a doctor and a pharmacist in one. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspire us from the life of Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.